tell you that this is one of the number one things that is keeping entrepreneurs, moms, relationships stuck is this piece of codependency and how it relates to the inside of ourselves. So, welcome again. My name is Melissa Gale. If this is the first time you are catching me live, I want you to go ahead and let me know here in the comments. And let me know that you're a first time viewer. I want to welcome you. This is a safe place where we talk about all things trauma and how it shows up. And one of the biggest ways that it shows up, hello, welcome. The way that it shows up is in codependency. So we're going to start defining that. One of the things that I wanted to mention as well, we are going to be opening up 10 spots because codependency is such a near and dear topic to my heart, mostly because it ruined my life and ruined a ton of my relationships. We're opening up 10 spots to help you identify exactly where this came from and how specifically you can heal it, right? Healing trauma, just healing in general, it's not linear. It is a process, and we have built this group to support each and every one of you to be able to take your healing into your own hands and get yourself independent in your own mental wellness. So welcome. I am so glad that each and every one of you are here. All right, so we will go ahead and get into it. I will put that link. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. Real quick. Sorry about that, guys. I need to do this real quick. I did this before. Okay. All right. So there's 10 spots available, so that just the first ones that want to pop in there and do that. It'll be over the next 48 hours. I opened up some time over the next 48 hours. So if you do, and that's something that you want to do, please do. So getting into it, codependency. I first want to define what it is. And the reason why, so that we can have an intelligent conversation about this, because I find so many people, they think they know what it is, and they get actually dependent and codependent mixed up. And so we're going to go over the difference. So the actual definition, when you look it up, is excessive emotional or psychological resilience on somebody else. Okay? Whereas, and so what I hear a lot of people say is they see someone who is just like a taker. They are taking all the time. They're the energy suckers of life. And they're like, oh my gosh, they're so codependent. No, they're dependent. You are codependent, and y'all match each other for the exact same core need. So one of the things that it's really important, if we're going to start dissecting some of the behavior and why it is that we do it, we're going to have to look at where it actually comes from. And then toward the end of this, I'm going to explain to you how your brain works, how you process information, how you process emotions, so that you can understand why you do this behavior at a core level, and you can give yourself some grace, and you can release some of the shame that you have around this constant behavior that basically puts you in a position where you're constantly setting yourself on fire to keep everybody else warm, because that serves nobody. It serves nobody. And quite frankly, it's killing you dead. And it killed me dead. By the time that I found healing, I was a shell of a human being. And, since then, and since I found my own healing, I have given my life to help people be able to support themselves and being able to heal themselves from childhood trauma. If you know my background at all, I was raped and sex trafficked off and on from 2 to 25. And that wasn't what ruined my life. What ruined my life was who I decided I was in those moments. And with that, I wrecked my own life over and over and over again. And one of those ways was with codependency. So why do we do this? Welcome, as y'all are coming in. I'm so glad y'all are in. I did pop a link in there. Scroll up. We've got 10 spots just to hop on a 15-minute call. We're going to identify where this stuff stems from for you specifically, how we can heal, and then we'll send you out a meditation as well, specific around the problem that we identify on the call. So book a call in there. There's 10 spots over the next 48 hours. So we have to understand that this dependent, we're talking about dependent versus codependent. Dependent is they're dependent on physical needs. We codependent, we are dependent on the emotional need. And the way that we do this is because, or the reason why we do this is because we need validation. We need validation, and it stems from a belief system of not good enough. And if you've got belief systems of not good enough, it's going to show up in codependency. It's going to show up in, I don't know how to love me, so I'm going to give and give and give and give and give so that you can love me because I don't know how to love me. And I'm going to give to you so much in hopes that you don't leave me. And when we start learning about that, this is where it really gets juicy, because this don't leave me, this is where you actually get to look at your own root. And it stems from abandonment. This abandonment wound that we have, and it doesn't even specifically have to come from your parents. My parents were always there, never abandoned me, always there. It didn't happen. And this is going to land with a lot of you, because a lot of you who have had trauma or abuse in your childhood, and while maybe other people may have abandoned you, the real hurt, the real damage that was done over and over and over again was you abandoning yourself. You abandoning yourself. What happens when we abandon ourselves? When we abandon ourselves, ultimately we lose trust in ourselves. And then it causes us to second guess ourselves. We're constantly in a situation where we are putting ourselves in situations to prove our belief systems true, and the belief systems that we have is that we're not good enough and we're not worthy. Oh, watching from the air, that's a first. It's okay. It'll be on the replay, so you can come back into this event and you'll be able to watch it in here. We do have, 30 hours of free training to be able to support you in understanding why and how you do what it is that you do. So what are these core needs that are driving this behavior? The core needs ultimately is love and safety, driven by this need to feel needed. And if we feel needed, then we feel loved and we feel safe. If we're needed, then people can't leave us. Awesome. Look forward to talking with you, Nellie. And then what happens? So when we understand the brain and we understand the unconscious mind, one of the prime directives of the unconscious mind is that it's going to take the fastest way to meet the need. Again, the need is love and safety. The result you're wanting is to feel needed. The fastest way to do that is for you to run your programming. And so we have to understand that this program that we have, and I'm gonna explain to you how this programming is actually created in your unconscious mind here in just a minute. But we have to understand this programming is running 96% of every single thing that we do. From all of our autonomous behaviors to all of our physical behaviors that we do. It's driving all of the relationships we choose. It's attracting all of the scenarios that we have. And then from that then becomes the experience to our life. Right? So what the end result is going to be that you're going to play out whatever pattern of behavior that you have. So how does this show up? Right? So it shows up in relationships. A lot of times, most of my clients, if they aren't in a narcissistic relationship right now, they've been in one at one point. Why is that? Because again, a narcissist is energetically looking for someone who is easy to control. If you are a codependent, you are very easy to control. Why? Because you're a people pleaser, meaning you're going to do anything that you need. Validation is outside of you. You don't know how to validate yourself. You can't validate yourself. Therefore, anyone else can control you just by giving you a little praise. Or almost like little puppy dogs. Like anything. But with a bite and an attitude. Because also, we don't do any of this out of love. We would say that we would. We would say that we would do this out of love. But we really actually don't do it out of love. We really actually do it from this unconscious mind of needing validation. And then we become bitter about all of the things that we have to do over and over again. This not good enough also creates the narcissistic relationship, because most narcissistic, and quite frankly, most of you that think you're in a narcissistic, you're with someone who has narcissistic tendencies, and quite frankly, so do you. We all do. We all do. So it shows up in relationships as attracting people who are sick. Then you get to take care of them. Then they're needed, and then they can't leave you. Dating addicts, whether it's a workaholic to a addict of some other sort. All addicts, from workaholic to a someone who works out all the time and they're addicted to that, to someone who is using cocaine, to somebody who is using sex. You know what they all have in common? They're numbing. You know what they mean that they're numbing? That there is something to numb, which is inside their body. And if it's inside their body, they, just like us, are having a physical manifestation of that through their circumstances, which is creating a lot of chaos, which requires a lot of your attention, because what are we? We're fixers. We're the people who are going out there looking for the problems, and we're Johnny on the spot to make sure that it happens. And look at me, I came to save the day again. And where does that leave us? At the end of the day, it leaves us exhausted, adrenal fatigue, tired, worn out, resentful, angry, depressed, anxious. Is this sounding familiar to anybody? Look, we create our reality, and if we're not willing to start looking at why it is that we do the things that we do, then hero syndrome, yeah, martyrdom, yes, right? You know, if we're not willing to start taking this deep look at why it is that we want to behave in this way, we're never going to change. And even just awareness, you know, there's people out there that say awareness is 75% of the problem. You just become aware, then you can do something about it. And that's true. And I would say awareness is 10%. Then you get to heal. And once you heal, you get to integrate. And then you get to commit to yourself a life of healing. You get to commit to yourself a life of self-care that looks like this: you taking care of you, you facing you every single day, you pushing yourself to your own limits, so that's and clearing out some of this baggage that we have from the past, so that God can use us in a different way. So this mission vision that God carried out, or is having you carry out, actually does get carried out so that you can move your feet, so that you can take the imperfect action, not from a place of trying to impress somebody else or to people please, or because if I don't do this, you'll leave me. Whether this be your children, your partner, your abusive relationship that you are punishing yourself with and staying in, because it at least validates your need that you're not good enough, while being the victim at the same time. And we're about to get into that. You know, the biggest thing about codependency, when we go around rescuing everybody else from their situation, we take away their God-given right and their God-given lessons that God gave them. They're for them. But we can't sit there and watch people hurt because we know what it's like to hurt. And because we don't know how to save ourselves, we go and save other people so that we can feel good. Not so they can feel good, so that we can feel safe, not so they can feel safe. In fact, it has nothing to do with them. And quite frankly, anyone could be sitting in that place. You just need someone sitting in that place so that you can do for them, so that you can feel validated. Single parents, I'm looking at you with your children. Your children's job is not to validate you and make sure that you feel good enough about yourself. We've got to learn how to communicate with ourselves in a different way. We've got to start learning to get our own answers, and we've got to start being willing to face ourselves and healing that at the root, so that it starts showing up. Just like all of the our poor behavior that we have, all of the things that we most disdain about ourselves that we wish we could stop, and this behavior, we don't have to think about it to do it. When you get the healing and you actually heal the root, the opposite is just as easy and just as natural. And my hope is for you is that you learn how to actually work your brain. You learn how to work your God-given gifts and talents so that you can take those talents and serve your family from that place. You use your gifts and talents and the healing that you have to be the soft space to land for the sick, the hurting, which now is your family, right? Because they're taking on and absorbing all of our own trauma that we have. How does it show up? We've gone into people pleasing. So this shows up, I'm telling you, this is one of the biggest things that shows up in the coaching industry. We have a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches that are in this course, and so many of them are either not making money or they're making money, but they're working themselves to death for this right here. And they're in one of two categories. It's this constant need to people please instead of owning your own voice, owning your own truth, and standing up and standing in that regardless of who gets upset. It's willing to stand up and share your own truth because you've done enough work around it so that you can you can actually lead someone to the next place instead of trying to lead someone to a place that you've never been, so you can at least feel good enough about yourself that you led somebody there since you don't know how to do it for yourself. And this is no judgment either, because quite frankly, the best brain surgeon in the world still has to have somebody do brain surgery on them. There's nothing wrong with needing help, but sitting in our situation and trying to lead people in an unsafe situation, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And on, and even on a grander scale of how this shows up is even into autoimmune disorders. 95% of all autoimmune disorders stem back to trauma in some way. And it's stemming back to trauma from these different ways. We're just now starting this series. This is the first episode that we have on the series that we're doing of how all the different ways that trauma shows up. If you didn't catch our What is Trauma, go back and do it. It's in the Intention Academy group under featured post. Go watch it so that you understand how trauma actually shows up in your body. We're going to get into everything from how we process emotions to boundaries to self-sabotage and comparing trauma over the course of the next 6 weeks. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going to tell you too, at the end of this, we've also got our 5-day healing challenge coming up. So I'll be giving y'all some information about that. Welcome. So many people are coming in here on the live. We're going over codependency. Welcome to this week's episode. It's been enlightening so far. Come back and watch the replay. We also have, if you scroll up, I will put the link in here. We have 10 spots to start to identify where this codependency actually lies in you. What is the actual root of that? What do you specifically need to do to heal that? And then I will give you a meditation that you can start working around some of this stuff as well. We'll rewatch. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. So what are some of the prices that we pay by staying in this codependent behavior? Again, knowing that codependency is just us showing up in a way so that we can get validation, meet our own core needs of love and safety, and ultimately not be abandoned again. Whether that abandonment originally came from someone else or we abandoned ourselves over and over again, right? One of the prices that we pay is real connection. Because this codependency that we have is just one of the many masks that we wear. And when we show up as a mask saying, hey, this is who I am, and we're going to get into masks in other ways, because no matter what we're doing, it's all these different masks that we wear so that we can armor up and not get hurt. And we can do the things that we need to do so that we're not in pain and protect ourselves. But you know what? The unconscious mind, you're never going to get over on the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind knows that even the love that you feel from somebody else is loving your representative. It's not even you. It's this fake person that you have built up through needing, through pain living in your body. When we talked earlier about the reason we do this is for love and safety, right? So even whenever we run these programs and patterns of behavior, however you have decided to run this program in with your life, And we do this through a lot of different ways, from codependency to perfectionism. There's just so many different patterns of behavior that we have that we're running on autopilot. You've heard it called codes, different, things that you do. Yeah, we're coded. Our brains are like the most giant machine and it's a magical machine. It allows you to be able to do things and take action in a split second from motivation that you don't even know you had. The problem is most of our motivation is from this negative place and needing safety. And then until you can get safety inside of your body, until you learn how to validate yourself, you're always going to come from these negative motivations. You're going to, and then when you're coming from this negative motivation, you're going to run your autopilot program behavior. And so I want to give you a quick little rundown. All right, we're still doing a decent amount of time. I want to give you a quick little rundown on how your programming is actually created. So I said one of the things that this stems from, and believe me, your codependency is not just ran from one belief system, but it is almost always tied to abandonment of some sort and not good enough. But you've got other ones besides not good enough, unlovable. There's a lot. But I want to talk about how these belief systems are actually formed in your unconscious mind, because if we don't understand that, you're not going to understand why all the things that you've been trying so far, while they've had results and they've been good, they don't last. And you're going to understand that right now. So we have to understand, one, how we take on information. And so how we take on information, even like right now, you're taking this information on with your eyes, and what we think happens is that it goes to our conscious mind and we think about it, and then we file it into the unconscious mind to think about later, called a memory. But that's not actually what happens. What happens is you're taking this information on with your eyes, you get a picture. And that picture bypasses your thinking brain, your critical factor, any way for you to make any sense of it. And it goes straight to the unconscious mind. And it gets filtered through something called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And you can think of this as like the GPS system for your brain, right? It's going to, so it's going to take that image and it's going to filter it through all of your programming, all of your religious programming, your societal programming, your parental programming, all of the experiences that you've had in your life, all of your emotions, all of your belief systems, any trauma that you may have had. And then it's going to delete, generalize, and distort that image to whatever's programmed here. And then we move that distorted image, if it wasn't completely deleted, and we move that to the frontal lobe to think about, and we call that distorted image the truth. Now, I can give you an example of how we do the deleting, right? The deleting, have you ever looked for your keys in there in your hand, or you look for your sunglasses in there on your head, right? This process of taking this information and filtering through the reticular activating system for us to then think about and then take an action is milliseconds. That's why trying to control your triggers that you have is never going to work. Triggers happen in a second. You're never going to get over on your triggers. You can be responsible for your triggers and do the real healing so that you can show up in a different way. But the way that you show up is going to be in an instant. Everything else that you do is from a place of willpower, which is 4% of the unconscious mind. Everything else is going to be coming from this place of the unconscious mind. So it's so important. This is why we say hurt people. Because hurt people, we don't understand how to work our brains. Next week, whenever we go over processing emotions, you're going to understand a lot more about triggers. So make sure that you come into that. But ultimately, if we're going to heal this, it's got to go back to the root. And the root is not the belief system. The belief system is the root of the behavior. And that's why everybody wants to work on that. But the problem is most people are doing the work on the belief system when you've got a whole foundation of what the belief system is. And until you deal with that, you ain't changing the belief system. So let me give you an example. Let's say you go and work with somebody on your abandonment and you're not good enough. And you go and like you take a course in a program, and probably most of you in here have already taken courses and programs on different things. And you go in and you see maybe a therapist or a facilitator or a coach or a something, and they do, you know, whatever their magic is, and it works, and all of a sudden you do feel good enough. You're like, wow, I actually really do feel good enough. But then in a couple of weeks you don't feel good enough. Why? Because they're leaving out the reticular activating system. They're leaving out the reticular activating system. So what happens? You went, they did their magic, all of a sudden you feel good enough. What happens with new information? New information gets filtered through the reticular activating system. You get a picture of you feeling good enough, and then it gets filtered through this reticular activating system and all of your belief systems and all your trauma and all your hurt and all your thing. And what I call it is your bullshit meter. So it's going to call bullshit on your I'm good enough, and it's going to send it right back over to your unconscious mind, into the Gestalt. And we'll get into Gestalts. You can also go back into the modules, into the guides, and watch those too. And it's going to send it over to this Gestalt that says, not true, never was true, never going to be true. I'm not good enough. And then you will behave right back from there again. And this is how we repeat these cycles of behavior, no matter how much work we do. A belief system is created like this: an outside influence coupled with a deep emotion. We decide something about ourselves or the world. You were abandoned, or you abandoned yourself. You decided you weren't good enough. And with that lens, you then recreate experiences over and over again where you are either left, or you are in a codependent situation where you are doing, giving in hopes that one day you have the validation, the good enough feeling, and that you're loved. All knowing at the end of the day that you're never going to fool your unconscious mind, and they know they don't even love you. They love your representative. You are sacrificing every single bit of connection, love, genuine joy by now choosing this behavior. If you want to dive deep into this and you want to actually look at this, like I said, I've got those 10 spots open. I know several people booked a call in here. It's over the next 48 hours. Book that call. If you know that you want to dive deep into this work and actually clear the reticular activating system, which basically this is what we do. We have these start up every single 2 weeks. We will have another group going through next Friday. So that is the 18th. We're at the 18th, next Friday. Sorry, don't know the date. And so you have the ability to actually start this, where we're actually going into influences, and then we move over to emotions, so we can finally get to belief systems. Belief systems is where you're going to bring us 20 to 30 belief systems, and we're going to find the linchpin so we can knock all of these out. But you've got some foundational work that you need to do. And ultimately, we're going to get you into a place where you can be completely independent in your own mental wellness. So if you want to do that, hop on this call. We can get on a big one. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. Come back and watch this replay. This was such a good call, going over codependency and how it's absolutely wrecking our relationships, wrecking our adrenal systems, wrecking our life, and robbing us from our own intimacy, not just with ourselves, but with every single person that we love. Hello, Jamie. I know we've got a call here in just a minute, so I will be getting on that. And book that call. Otherwise, come next Tuesday. If you are not on our email list, we send these out of these calls. We're doing these. We're going to have this series going for the next 6 weeks. We have our 5-day free healing journey that's coming up. So we're going to be putting that out tomorrow. Be looking for that for those that want to do that. Otherwise, I'll see you on the call that you booked. I'll see you next Tuesday, or we'll see you in the 5-day free challenge. Talk soon.